Why would Fry be immune to the flying brains? Because he doesn't shower?
The brain spawns suppress intelligence by attacking the delta brain wave. Every animal and robot in the universe generates this wave, as do certain trees.
Fry, however, does not.
Somehow, he has cobbled together a random assortment of other brainwaves into a working mind.
Like a prom dress made from carpet remnants.
Yes, like your prom dress.
Only Fry, with his superior yet inferior mind, can approach it.
I did do the nasty and the pasty.
Verily. And that past nastification is what shields you from the brains. You are the last hope of the universe.
Hey Exiles, Chronic Painless here with another update to the Blade Vortex patch 3.20 League Starter Build Guide. I had an amazing week in the Forbidden Sanctum and put together a streak of 10 full clears before my hubris got the better of me. I truly believe that Cold BV is an S-tier Sanctum build if set up properly, and even has the potential to be a no-hit wonder and earn the coveted Original Sin. In this video, I'll break down how I've all but completely trivialized the Forbidden Sanctum, despite my well-documented potato skills when it comes to controlling my character. I'll start by going over the changes I've made to my build, then talk about the Sanctum more generally. First, I abandoned all notions of tankiness. If the existence of the no-hit unique relic and the Original Sin ring have taught us anything, it's that the Sanctum was designed to be clearable without getting hit. At long last, the era of the glass cannon has arrived, and Cold BV is ready to claim the throne. But besides the obvious need for more damage, we also need to focus on improving three other crucial areas: AoE, speed, and automation. So let's get to it. I had a feeling that AoE was going to be really important for the Sanctum, and after a week and a half of testing, I can safely say that my instincts were correct. Without standard defenses to help us, we have to rely on the true defensive layer of a Cold Blade Vortex build. Blade Vortex. That's not a meme. The defensive power of 10 blades swirling around you, instantly freezing and swiftly dismembering anything that they come in contact with, cannot be oversold. Of course, this defensive layer is only as strong as its AoE, since it provides nothing against attacks from the outside. In regular mapping, this is almost never an issue, as we're free to shield charge and frost blink or flame dash as we please, blasting from one pack to the next. But in the Sanctum, movement is much more restricted, with traps and frequent ground attacks constantly being thrown at you. This is particularly noticeable against bosses, where a large AoE allows you to damage while maintaining a safe distance. So even if light beams or flame balls or mega slams are forcing you to flee, the boss will still be getting whittled down. This is absolutely crucial on the final boss, who can spawn her own spinning blades on top of herself and deny us the ability to get in close. And freedom of movement isn't the only benefit. In the later floors of the Sanctum, where guards spawn in larger packs, having a big enough AoE enables you to simply place yourself in the middle of them and let the freeze do the work. Unfortunately, AoE is not always the easiest stat to come by, but there are some pretty efficient sources that we can take advantage of. The passive tree has several clusters within range of our usual tree, and without the need for tankiness, we have some points to spare from life or armor nodes. We'll also definitely want a pair of vast power clusters to get as close to the 50% cap as we can. Carcass Jack is a great option as well, especially if you can afford one with an AoE or duration gem corruption. And don't sleep on weapon enchants, or even a belt enchant if you're really min-maxing. I found that getting myself over 30 radius made a big difference in how easy it felt to keep everything frozen and also stay safe against bosses. The next stat that helped me consistently full clear the Sanctum is speed. I think it goes without saying how important movement speed is for something like the Sanctum, but cast speed is worth highlighting as well. The last thing we want in the Sanctum is to be stuck standing still for longer than we have to be, and cast speed is the best solution to this potential issue. Thankfully, a little goes a long way. We're not normally invested in cast speed, so any increases that we do pick up feel like more multipliers, since diminishing returns haven't really kicked in yet. Haste aura is massive here, and can easily be swapped in for determination, or even a damage aura if you're consistently freezing the guards. I also put faster casting support on my Arcanist brand, and got a cast speed suffix on my Silver Flask, just to squeeze out that last little bit of potential. And speaking of Arcanist brand, automation was the next thing that I tried to prioritize for the sake of the Sanctum. This is only logical, since if cast speed is helpful, not having to cast at all must be even better. Turning Frostbomb and Assassin's Mark into a single button press that I could use before combat even started was a palpable benefit, and I highly recommend automating everything that you can in order to allow yourself to focus on staying mobile and dishing out the DPS. I would only consider applying hexes via Curse on Hit or Blasphemy. Not needing stats to tank up has enabled me to incorporate a Mark of Submission ring, which not only automates a curse, but allows it to get the full value of the level 20 gem and 20 quality. This is huge on Frostbite, where the 20% increased freeze duration is essentially freeze as if dealing 20% more damage. Before I get into my general tips, I do want to briefly touch on a couple of the other ways that I've been able to get more damage by ditching aspects of the build that make it strong outside of the Sanctum. Profane Bloom, despite being one of the most potent ascendancies in the entire game when it comes to mapping, is utterly worthless in the Sanctum. This makes Unholy Agony an extremely attractive option for the prospect of an additional curse, or at least saving points from the Whispers of Doom cluster. Herald Device is in a similar boat, where the buff it provides starts to fall off tremendously as the rest of our damage ramps up, and without the need for Shatter Explosions to improve our clear speed, this is one of the first auras that we can drop to help make room for haste or a more damaging option like Zealotry. In the end, I found that about 6 million Cirrus DPS in POB was enough for me to kill Lycia's final form before her lightning phase. That pretty much covers the changes I made to the build, so now let's talk about how to handle the Sanctum in terms of playstyle and the choices we make within the League mechanic. For playstyle purposes, the first key to a successful Sanctum run is recognizing your aggro radius. The guards won't do anything unless you trigger them, even in combat rooms, but as soon as they are triggered, there's a danger of them starting to launch projectiles or place bombs and other ground effects. But once you get the hang of where these guards regularly spawn, you can reliably pre-fire your flame dash from outside their aggro radius, and with enough AoE on your blades, they should be frozen before they can even react. When we don't have Veil BV up, we can't truly off-screen enemies like a totem or tornado shot build, but blinking from outside a guard's aggro to instantly freeze and kill them accomplishes more or less the same thing. The next thing I try to focus on playstyle-wise is avoiding standing on corpses. With Vortex, it can be extremely difficult, if not impossible, to see certain ground effects, and I frequently found myself taking resolve damage from seemingly nowhere during my early attempts. Once I tried to run without Vortex, though, I saw how many little bombs and other deadly things can be left behind when a guard dies. Fortunately, these pitfalls usually require a second or two to detonate, so it's okay to run over a body to grab the coins it dropped, but standing on top of it is a recipe for disaster. Now, I'm back to running Vortex and simply stay mobile enough to where I don't need to worry about taking damage from any bombs I do set off. Lastly, I try to make sure that my damage output is always at 100%. This is already important when running juicy content, and the Sanctum only highlights how crucial it can be. The Flicker Strike guards that have been the bane of Reddit's League since day one are completely trivialized by maintaining 10 blades, since they'll instantly freeze and pop as soon as they blink onto us. I also make sure to build up power charges before bosses and reset my inspiration charges before the fight starts. That last bit may be a bit overly cautious, but I'd hate to fail a run because I didn't take 10 seconds to properly set myself up for an encounter. Now, we need to talk about navigating the Sanctum map and making good use of relics. In my opinion, the most important thing by far when it comes to choosing rooms is not limiting your future choices. Even if we can't see what's in all the rooms that lay ahead, we can see the connections between them, and spotting bottlenecks that will force you to go in a certain room due to choices made several rooms ago can be a lifesaver. I always try to stay as wide as possible, meaning I want to maintain access to as many unrevealed rooms as I can as I go along. This helps not only for getting juicy rewards, but also for avoiding potentially run-ending afflictions. Watch for rooms that have only one exit, and especially watch for pairs of rooms that both lead only to the same place. It may take a little more time to analyze that far ahead, but trust me that it absolutely pays off. Of course, giving ourselves lots of choices is only helpful if we're making the right ones. In general, I favor merchants and accursed packs above all else. Merchants are the only room that can offer a benefit that lasts beyond the current run in the form of relics, and being able to pick from a menu of bonuses is infinitely better than being assigned a random one by boon fountains. I prioritize anything that gives me more damage or reduces monster health. Accursed packs are excellent because they can both be helpful and rewarding, since there is also an offer waiting for anyone bold enough to make a pact. When it comes to afflictions, the most important thing is not getting random ones whenever possible, since there are several that we want to avoid at all costs. This means avoiding the gain an affliction when you gain an affliction, and also anything that reduces the number of rooms we can see, hides the afflictions in those rooms, or threatens to take us to a random room regardless of what we choose. For afflictions that actually affect gameplay, always avoid monsters' action speed cannot be reduced below base value, reduced movement speed, and anything that makes the monsters have more life or makes you do less damage. Reduced light radius is not as scary as it sounds, and once you've gotten a few runs under your belt, you'll hardly need the minimap anymore, but it's definitely worth avoiding early on. Similarly, afflictions that impact resolve or inspiration are only as dangerous as the rest of the Sanctum feels for you. At first, they can be extremely deadly, but you'll soon reach a point where resolve has become the least of your worries. Now, I do also have to note that it seems like the action speed mod is bugged at the moment and guards can still be frozen solid anyway, but that's probably going to be fixed very soon, and giving them more attack and cast speed is dangerous enough as it is, so I'd recommend staying away from this affliction whenever possible. As for Relics, at first I stacked as much inspiration and maximum resolve gain as I could for the sake of learning the mechanics, but once I felt like I had gotten the hang of things, I switched to hyper-focus on Aureus coin generation and increasing the damage that monsters take. Coins are not only crucial for juicing with the new uniques, they are also the lifeblood of a good run, as we always want to have the option to buy whatever we need from the merchant. Increased monster damage taken mods are hugely impactful as well. I'm up over 30% in total from my relics, essentially giving myself another link on my BV. The only other advice I have right now is practice, practice, practice. The difference between my first 5 Sanctums and my next 10 was huge, and most of that didn't come from better gear, but from having seen more of the mechanic and thus not being surprised or confused nearly as often. I also highly endorse trying a run without Vortex, at least not on left click, just so you can learn to read the rooms for potential dangers and actually see what's hitting you. And before you know it, you'll be dodging invisible damage like a Jedi. That's all for this video. I'll be blasting Sanctums until a no-hit run is within reach, so stop by the Twitch channel and say hey, or join the Discord for even more BV discussion. And as always, stay painless.